You're listening to the Strategically Podcast. I'm Tyler Collins.
And I'm Brandon Collins. We like to say that strategy is all about finding the best way to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Head over to our website, Strategically, that's strategic.li, for more tools and content. But right now, you can join us for this casual conversation where we dive deep into the concepts behind thinking strategically in life, business, or whatever you care about.
In this episode, we examine the different levels of strategy and how it can sometimes be better to lose in the short term to win in the long term. Let's get into it.
So maybe that's what it is. You know, maybe
that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how I feel is that you can pick the wrong destination and have a very good strategy that will take you to the wrong destination. But you know, I think.
Okay. So, but let me push back on that. So let's take the company example. If I was CEO of a company, there's sort of an assumption, which is my goal is to help this company grow. And even that could be broken down farther, but you know, we want the stock value to go up. We want our product, we want more products, and we want our products to be more successful. We want to hire better people. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't go that far, but like all of what I just said though, is that a strategy or is that just an assumption of where I want the company to go? And then I'm going to decide how we get there. Like, cause there's a lot of ways you could help your company grow, but you notice that when I was describing growth, that the way you define growth could be broken down in a lot of different ways. And there's a feeling that I have, and it's really just a feeling because I'm not sure if I could even express it yet. That is even how I would define growth could be thought of strategically or not strategically. You see what I mean?
Not completely.
So one person might say, the way that we're going to define growth is stock price. That's the only thing we're going to look at. That's a guiding principle to use your words, right? Another company could say the way that we're going to define growth is going to be the number of quality employees we have, because we are making an assumption that the better people we have, the better our company is going to do overall. That's a guiding principle. Another person could say, no, our overall revenue is going to be our decision for growth. If that revenue goes up by percentages each year, that's what we're going to consider growth. That could also be a guiding principle. You see, like just even in that, I've looked at the same goal, growth, in three different ways, which would lead me down three different paths. So that's where I'm feeling like there's guiding principles there, even just in deciding my destination.
So I guess my feeling on that would be, or the way I think about that is not that the goal, really what you're showing is that how language, English, the language we're speaking at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, like a single word could actually represent many different destinations. I think is the point, is really what I draw from the conclusion from your example. Not necessarily that your goal is part of your well, it is part of your strategy, but because what I hear you saying is like there are different strategic ways to view growth, but that's more of like a definition of the word growth. So to me, it's like, well, you have to clarify what you mean by growth if that's going to be your destination.
Yes, but here's my point. Arriving at your definition for growth will take strategic principles. It will take guiding principles. Why did you land on the fact that having really strong employees is the most important thing? Why did you land on the fact that the stock price is going to be your most important thing? Those feel like strategic choices that take strategic thought to arrive at those different definitions of growth. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. I think they do. I think they take strategic principles because they're not the actual destination. Like take your employee, whatever
quality, let's say, quality of your employees,
sure, or happiness, employee satisfaction, or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah,
because that's the thing that some companies do is they think if our employees are really happy, they'll do better work, succeed.
Yeah.
But the succeed in that statement is actually all you're doing is kicking the can down the road one level up. You're saying because in that case you could say better employees or more satisfied employees are going to lead to a better stock price or a better return on investment for our investors. And so then your destination is actually for your investors.
That one maybe doesn't fit with the illustration, but you could say revenue is our growth decision because revenue doesn't necessarily follow stock price. You could say stock price is the only thing that matters. You know what I'm saying? Because stock price and company success aren't always connected together. You know, you can be an incredibly successful company and your stock price is all over the place just based on financial analysts and what they think about your company.
Right.
That's absolutely true, you know?
your perception of your company. Yeah. But I guess again, the point there again is so to me, those two examples are good. Well, maybe not even there. Because I think the question is, how far up can you go?
Yeah.
Because you can
That's
always
really
go
what
one
I'm
level
hitting
up.
at. That's what I'm hitting at.
You can always
exactly.
go one level up. So for example, you could say our company, we value the stock price, the return on investment for our investors. Well, why did you choose that destination? I chose that because I have a fiduciary responsibility. So legally, I have to choose that. Okay, well, why do you care what the law says? Well, because my personal values dictate that I need to value what the law says. Well, why do your personal values dictate? You could always go up and up and up until you get to a certain point where you're going to end up at like, who are you as a human being? And like, why do you value the things you value? So I guess what to me that shows is that you always have to draw the line somewhere and say, I'm not going to go beyond this. Now, could you start literally from like, why am I alive? Like, why do I choose to get out of bed every morning? Yeah, I think that's actually really helpful. But I don't think you can always go that far back, or else you'd almost never make choices every day.
Well, here's why I'm bringing it up, because I'm gonna give you an example. Actually, Amazon is a really good example of this, where their whole strategy, and this is why they have been winning, well, at least recently. Their whole strategy is, we're not going to make money. We're going to use every penny that we have, whether it's borrowed money, stock money, whatever it is, money that we make, revenue, and put it back into the business, because their whole idea is, we want to build a mountain between us and our competitors, and it's working, right? That's why they're winning in so many of these categories, because they are reinvesting so much, and they don't have to pay taxes because of that. But they're reinvesting so many of their profits into pushing forward. That's a completely new strategy that really flies in the face of what most people would have thought about growth. But, I don't know who was responsible for that strategy. I would think Bezos had a part of that. So let's say Bezos, he looked at growth in a different way. And he looked at it by saying the overall value of our company, which is a very hard thing to define. You know what I mean? Or maybe he looked at it and said, how far we are ahead of our competitors. That's our goal. That's going to be our destination. But you see what I'm saying? Even in him defining that, there's a strategy there, because other companies had never looked at it that way. And so it had led them down different paths. And he looked at it, or whoever, I don't want to give him all the credit, because I'm sure there's like a team of people behind there. But let's just say to make this discussion easier, Bezos looked at it and said, no, if we look at this in a different perspective, if we look at it as the farther ahead we get of our competitors in whatever, because they have lots of different, businesses, that will give us more value. That should be our focus and growth. That is the strategic choice, just even looking at it from that perspective. And it was a more successful strategic choice than a lot of other, online companies and businesses. Like they're probably going to eclipse Walmart. They've already eclipsed Costco. They've eclipsed a lot of these other, Kmart, who is gone now, just by choosing to look at things from a different perspective. So I think that's strategic, even though all of the companies have chosen the same destination, growth, but looking at it from a different perspective. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, but I guess I don't think that's what am I saying? This isn't what I mean, but it's almost like that's the wrong question. Here's what I mean by that. If Amazon went bankrupt tomorrow for some crazy reason, would we say they were a successful company? Or whoever runs them, would Jeff or
everybody would say they were successful. But because they've accomplished so much at this point.
But then that question, that statement, what you just said, what have they accomplished? Certainly they have accomplished creating new business models and getting products out to people in ways that, making things cheaper in some cases, but is that what the point is? Yes, they're accomplishing something, but what is that the right something? And did they choose that something? And what? So for example, if Jeff Bezos started out and said, you know what, I don't even care if Amazon makes any money for my investors. All I want to do is like create new ways of products getting into people's hands and like lower goods prices on goods, which I don't think that's what he said, but let's pretend he did. You could say, oh, look, he did that here. He made a little progress there. Like that was pretty successful. But maybe he didn't say that. Maybe he said, no, I do want to make millions and billions of dollars for all of the investors and people who are part of my company. And he's just simply deferring that, or they're just simply deferring that by reinvesting all the money back into the company. And then if they went bankrupt in the middle of that process, they would be actually a failure because they never sort of gained the value from their position. Like if you're always reinvesting the money you're making back into the position so you get further ahead, what's the point of being ahead? Like, because you're not actually making money from being ahead if all you're doing is pouring it back in.
Well,
so
you are making money because the overall value of your company is still growing. Your stock price still goes up, even though you're not net positive in your cash flow. And I think that was the different piece that maybe, I don't know if Amazon was the first, but they're the first company that I know
and that's
of.
happened many, many times now where you see companies like, what's the one that just happened with the movie theaters? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
There was an online company that they were trying to be the Netflix of movie theaters, where basically you paid like $20 a month and you could go to as many movies in a theater as you wanted.
Yeah.
And they were around for quite a while, a year or two or three even. Yeah. But everyone was like,
failed. Yeah.
They were valued really highly. There was millions of dollars invested, and they never had a business. They never had a strategy to make any money. And people just thought, oh, they'll figure that out eventually.
But they didn't.
But they never did. And they crashed and burned, and then people probably lost a bunch of money, So I guess the point is just to say you have to have and I know we're getting really businessy, and I'm way out of my depth on business plans and like how like Amazon's finances and all of that. I mean, Jeff certainly is worth a lot of money, but why is he worth a lot of money? It's like, so is that his goal? Is that the company's goal to make their CEOs super rich? Because if so, then they've succeeded. So I guess my point is still like the ultimate destination still is the ultimate destination, even if you use a sub point destination to get there. Like if getting ahead of your competition is a goal, that's a sub goal to what you're actually after. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we're getting so deep that we're probably losing people. Like if somebody's watching this, they might be lost because we are so deep. And even though I think you and I are tracking with what we're saying. So I just want to summarize, I guess, the point I'm trying to make, and hopefully this will get us not quite so deep. If that's helpful for people, hopefully it is. But I guess what I'm saying is there is a strategic way of even looking at your destination. I guess this is the point I'm trying to make. And it feels like it's almost another level up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at before with why do I feel like guiding principles isn't quite the whole picture, is because there is a prerequisite. Man, I cannot say that word. Prerequisite. There we go. And it is your destination. Choosing the right destination is a huge piece of that. Like, because we've pointed out over and over again, you can choose the wrong destination and make it there just fine. But, at the end of the day, how does that help you?
But that's my point, is to say the strategy of getting there is still a good or bad strategy. The only thing you measure a strategy on is, does it get you to where you set out to go? To me, I don't think you want to bake into the strategy, does it make you happy? Like, sure, you got to the place you were going, but that place you were going was the wrong place and you aren't happy. So that was a bad strategy. To me, no.
Yeah. Okay. I hear what you're saying. You're saying the strategy isn't responsible for whether you're happy with where you ended up or not.
That's right.
That's what you're saying. All the strategy is saying is, what's the most effective way to get where you said you wanted to go?
Yes.
Right?
It's kind of like good. It's like a computer program.
Yeah.
You could have bad input and you'll get bad output.
Yeah.
But the program always works effectively. The math always is the same. Even if the numbers you put in on the front end up with a number you weren't hoping for on the external. Now, could you zoom out another level? I think this is what you're saying is, could you zoom out another level and think and actually create a strategy? This is weird. I don't even know. Could you create a strategy to help determine where you want to go, to help determine is this the right destination?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that we want to dig in that far.
Maybe not in this. Maybe not in this episode, but I'm feeling like there is something there.
I agree, but I think there's people that have done those studies, like what truly makes you happy. Like there's lots of studies about people think something will make them happy when it really won't. And it's actually other things that, we have we're bad at guessing what will make us happy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely on a personal level. You could say, oh, like I want to be a lawyer when I grow up because lawyers are, wealthy and they're well respected and everybody's got to use a lawyer and whatever. And, they're thought of as well educated. And then you get to it and you're like, I hate being a lawyer for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Which that goes to a different part, which we'll definitely cover at some point, about knowing your core and knowing who you are as a person. When we start talking about implementing strategy in your own personal life and how important that is.
Yes.
But I guess what I'm saying, if I take it out of the personal context and I put it in a business context, a business can't be happy. A business can't be Do you know what I'm saying? Because a business is
emotionally.
Yeah, there's not like emotional pieces there, but a business can be more successful or a business can be more dominant. You know, a business can be farther ahead of its competition. Do you see what I'm saying? And knowing how to get there is strategy, right? But then you're saying that's just you're defining a different destination.
Exactly, different destination. Like take Zappos.
Yes.
Like they are not, to my knowledge, they're not like a massive player in the shoes industry, but they help thousands and thousands of people every year by donations. Their employees are super happy to work there. The people who interact with them always have really positive interactions. Like they're really well known for being a really good, like ethically good, maybe, I don't know, like a happy company. Yeah. And so
they
like
have a
that was the
positive
goal.
Influence in the world, so to speak.
Yes. And that was the goal that their founders set out for. And so are they ahead of their competition? Probably not. Are they the richest? And probably not. Yeah. But they are successful because they defined that as success. That was their destination. For sure. They built a strategy to get there.
And there's many other companies that are the same way. You know, I there's a shoe company I know of where when you buy a pair of shoes from them, they donate a pair of shoes to, you know, somebody.
That might be Zappos, actually.
The one I'm thinking of is not. I'm not thinking of the name of it off the top of my head, but
I was thinking Zappos does the same thing, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. But to your point, there are companies who are started, they're founded, created for other purposes than just to make money.
Yeah.
Right. There's a different goal. They are making money, but they're making money for other purposes to achieve, you know, and accomplish other things, maybe positive things in the world or whatever.
And that's another good analogy or another good example of what we started out by saying, that thinking strategically allows you to pick destinations that are different than what everybody else picks. Yeah. Like thinking strategically helps you realize I have a lot of choices. Like going to college, you can have a lot of different destinations coming out of that. Yeah. Or working at a certain company. You might like two people working at the same company could have different destinations and reasons for going there. So I think that's a really good.
Well, and going back to the college thing and hitting intentionality again, if your intention is to get a job, because that's another thing that people do is the goal is too short-sighted. The goal is just to complete college. Well, who cares about that? You know, you can take a degree in, you know, feudal historical documents. I don't know. I just made it something up. But are you going to get a job from that? Probably not. Sure. So then you know, were you successful in your goal of completing college? Yes. Yeah. But maybe the real goal was I want to get a job. So then you weren't successful.
Yeah. Or another one, you know, if you're looking for a job and maybe you're in the IT, you know, or computer science and you're, programming languages and stuff. And you're like, one person might say, I want to, they both might have the same goal of getting a job. One person might say, if I have amazing grades, I'm going to end up with a really great job. Because number one, I'm going to be skilled. And number two, my employer is going to look at those grades and think, oh, I'm a hard worker and whatever. Another person might get worse grades, but it's because they spent extra time writing an app on the side or doing an internship or something. And then maybe one of those people gets hired for that reason. You know what I mean? Yes. You don't know. You don't know which of those strategies is going to be better, but those are both valid strategies because, because they're a guiding principle, right? One person. Yeah.
So I think we've really done what we set out to do, which was define strategy, guiding principles to get you to a destination. I think that's the other piece that we want to add, because it's not just guiding principles, but it's guiding principles to arrive. I don't know. I don't like the word arrive, but to get to a specific destination.
Yeah.
But I think that we're uncovering even more value in this process, which is what you just said. Sometimes. Or what we were both kind of hinting at. Sometimes just going through the process of like, what are going to be my guiding principles to arrive at a destination? You realize that's the wrong destination. Yeah. Or you realize there's way more paths. There's way more choices than you ever thought you could have, you know? But just going through that exercise.
Yes. The process, the exercise forces you to answer questions that you may not have answered. It forces you to examine things you may not have examined. And that's always very healthy. So even if you're changing your strategy multiple times, that is never a bad thing. It's almost like it's never wasted time. In some ways, because
it can be for sure, which is
true. If you do a poor job at it, I guess.
That's a different thing when we talk about goals and all of that, but
that's another actually point I was going to make earlier about strategy is a good strategy can never happen on accident because it has to have intentionality behind it. So that implies that you can look up and see beyond the current reality and see beyond what's happening to you right now. And that's one of the things. I think there's reasons. This is what I'm after.
Yeah.
I think there's several different reasons that people don't value strategy, or they don't think it's important, or they don't choose to create one. I think one is they don't have a good definition. They don't have a good understanding of why it's helpful. The second one is they don't think they can actually influence their situation anyway. I think a third one is they see value in not having a strategy and I think that the solution to that problem is seeing that as part of your strategy rather than seeing that as anti-strategy.
Yes.
But the fourth one is, I think people, they might try to have a strategy, but they don't zoom out enough. They don't look up enough. They don't think big picture enough to actually have a strategy that can survive the little waves, the little storms that blow their boat off course, if that makes sense. And so they end up living, I had this thought, this phrase, functionally random lives.
Yeah.
Not because they didn't choose the strategy or they want a strategy, but because they couldn't get their eyes off of what was right in front of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're hitting, I'm going to put it on the screen, but you're hitting this point that you wrote down here. The worst kind of strategy is one that you have little to no control of. That happens when you can't zoom out and think about it big picture, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but just to maybe summarize, so we're saying strategy is about going from one place to another place. It's about achieving an objective or getting to a destination.
But it's the guiding principles to get you to a specific destination. I think that phrase encapsulates everything that we've talked about. I pushed back and said, what about? But I think I came back to this. It really is.
And the point you were driving is to say the strategy does not tell you if your destination is correct. It simply gets you there.
Yes.
Just like a boat can get you, like it's like a speedboat, or a car. Like the car doesn't tell you or a GPS maybe. Like you put in your destination and you say navigate.
Yep.
A good GPS just takes you there. It doesn't tell you. Like this literally happened to me. Oh, this is a perfect analogy. like actual life analogy. Okay, so I'm driving back from the airport from New York City back to my house.
Yeah.
And it wasn't back to a house. It was back to a city. I had to drop my car off and pick up somebody. So I say out loud to my phone, navigate to, and I said the name of the town that I was navigating to. Mm-hmm. And it said, okay, go ahead. It's like calculating, boom. Yep. I start driving and following the instructions. Well, what I didn't realize is that there's two of that town name.
Oh, yeah.
And it was taking me to the wrong one. And the wrong one was actually the literal opposite direction of where I wanted to go. The GPS was doing exactly what it was designed to do.
Yeah.
Take me to the place that I said, even though the place that I said. So is that the GPS's fault? No. It was navigating me the turns and the corners and whatever, but the destination is really up to me to decide, is that the right destination? So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind as we move forward on this.
Yeah, and so maybe the next piece for next episode, well, we'll go through our outline and see, but what I'm sensing out of this discussion is how important it is to choose the right destination.
That's right.
That is, it's almost more important than your strategy, I think. Actually, I would say it is more important because I think we've given a lot of examples and illustrations in this, in our talk today of how multiple strategies can get you to a destination. Some may be faster than others. Some might be more efficient. But there are, for almost any destination, there are probably hundreds of ways of accomplishing and getting you to your destination. Some might work better for some people. And again, that goes back to moral lines and health lines you might set. But if your destination is wrong, like your illustration, I think is perfect. If your destination is the wrong destination, it doesn't matter. You're gonna get there and then realize, oh, this isn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get to the right destination, to get to any destination. But if you chose the wrong one,
then nothing else, almost nothing else matters. You aren't going to celebrate and say, well, I got here in record time.
Yeah, that's right.
I got here faster than everybody else.
I didn't take one wrong turn on my way to the wrong place.
Exactly. Exactly. I drove faster than everybody else, but I didn't cross the finish line because I went to the wrong place,
Yeah.
So, all right, man. Yeah, I'm feeling like maybe that would be the next thing, but I know that is a huge piece of the book, and I forget exactly where we have that in our...
It's in there. It's in there. We might have to talk through how we want to tackle it, how deep we want to go on it, but maybe we'll do that a little bit off stream so that we can hit it in depth maybe next time. So,
are there any other introductory... Yeah, there's probably a few other introductory points that we'll want to hit, but I think we've hit the main two already in episode 1 and episode 2. Episode 1 where we talked about what are we really trying to accomplish with this book, and which led us to answer some really interesting questions. So if you haven't listened to that yet, definitely you should go check that out. But then here in session 2, I think we've done a really, really good job of defining strategy. What do we mean by it, and what really is it? And it's different than even probably where my head was at when we started this discussion.
Whether or not we did a good job, we spent an hour and a half talking about it. So hopefully we've said enough words that we've clarified what we mean by it, at least.
We definitely know what we mean by it. Hopefully it's helped you if you're watching this. It helps you think through it in yourself. And I think we've brought up a lot of other helpful things. And I think too, we've hopefully helped show the value of it being intentional about your strategy and all of the positives that can come out of that, not having a random life, maybe being more successful in your life, realizing you have more choices than you have, hopefully putting history even in perspective, which is not a place I thought we were going to go, but super interesting and helpful.
And this all goes back, and I hope people are feeling this, to what we talked about yesterday or last episode about why we are writing this, because I think having influence and control in your life leads to empowerment. It leads to more joy. It leads to more fulfillment in your life. And that's what we hope we can help people with. So excited about it. Well, that's all for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to hear the rest of this conversation, make sure to subscribe so you get new episodes as they're released. You can also view this content along with visuals on our YouTube channel. The link is in the show notes. We'll see you on the next one.